Hey everybody, DeathsStalker here. So I'm in the garage because it is raining and very, very cold outside with high winds. And I don't really feel like going out in close to zero temperatures to try to record a video. So I think I'll stay here where it's a wee bit warmer. So we're going to talk about the latest MotoGP race that took place in Valencia. And of course I'll put the name up here. Now, if you see the title, you already know that Joan won the World Championship. Well-deserved, well-earned. And Fabio had crashed out. Well, let's just talk about what happened. Well, I'll scan some shots of some of the upgrades my bike's going to get over the winter. So it started off with another sort of bombshell sort of thing, where Andrea Ioni, who is the Aprilia rider who has not been seen this season because he tested positive for a banned substance in a drug test and was suspended for 18 months. Well, he appealed that ban, and the result came in, and his ban is now a 4-year ban instead of 18 months. It's quite involved, and I had actually recorded a video on Friday, which you will be able to see on Thursday, that explains everything that happened, so I'm not going to bother going into that anymore. Now, the second thing that happened is Cal Crutchlow, who currently races for the LCR Honda team, had been informed that they were not renewing his contract for next season, and he is now got a deal with Yamaha. He's going to be Yamaha's official test rider, replacing Jorge Lorenzo. So the chances of seeing Cal at a race in MotoGP is pretty slim, since there's no guarantee they're going to have any wild card races next season, as they had none this season. Now the next thing that happened was Ika Ioni. I'll put his picture and name up. As you remember, last week he had missed his race because he was exposed to COVID through his brother. So he tested clean on Tuesday, came into the MotoGP paddock where they have to give you another test, and he tested positive again. So he is unable to race this weekend, and probably is now done for the season. So it's too bad for a young rider who shows a lot of potential, but you know, we have next season starting again in about 4 months. So now let's talk about practice and qualifying. No real big surprises. The Yamahas, again, were not working out too well. The one exception being Franco Morbidelli. He's running a slightly older version. It's actually closer to a 2019 bike than a 2020. And for some reason, his bike seems to be working better than the 2020 bikes. Maverick Vinales, Valentino Rossi, and Fabio were just doing very poorly. Also, the Suzukis were having a problem with qualifying. In fact, Alex Rins did not make it into qualifying too, so he actually quite a ways down. And Joan Mir, although he made qualifying too, he actually finished last in qualifying too. Now, the one thing that actually happened, which was really, really vicious, was Alex Marquez got high-sided off his Honda MotoGP bike. And MotoGP did provide the video, so it's available. I'll have a link to it on their YouTube channel. It was probably one of the most vicious high-sides I've seen in a while. Everyone commented that this is very much like what you would normally have seen in the 500 Grand Prix era with the two-strokes. And he landed right directly on his tailbone and then flat on his face. And it looked like he was really, really hurt. It looks more likely it knocked the wind out of him, and he was able to get up and limp off the track. And he eventually went to a hospital. He obviously had a bruise on his butt, like on his tailbone, whatever, and he was able to ride. But it was just a nasty crash, and luckily Brad Binder, who was right behind him at the time, had missed him, because it would have been a really bad situation if Brad had actually hit him. Now for qualifying, we had Franco Morbidelli getting on the pole, and Jack Miller just a couple thousandths behind him, and Taka Nakagami again qualified in the front row. He's becoming quite the qualifier. Now again, Joan Mir was quite a ways down. Alex Marquez was, of course, quite a ways down. Dovi was quite a ways down. The KTMs, for some reason, were doing very good on this track, and they normally don't, so it was actually quite surprising. So the race started, and it was actually a very clean start. No banging or grinding of fairings and stuff. Got through several corners and several laps. Fabio Quartararo actually ran wide in one of the corners. I guess he was coming in too fast and had to take evasive action to prevent a collision, and he got back on the track in last place and again began to pull his way forward. Franco Morbidelli got in the lead and basically was trying to run away, and Jack Miller was following him as best he could. Taka actually dropped behind a bit, and Paul Espargaro got in front of him. Now Taka, after I guess his tires got up to heat, had tried to pass Pole back, and he crashed out, which is unfortunate because I think that's the third crash now where he's had potential to be on the podium. A few laps later, Johan Zarco, in the exact same corner, had crashed out, and on this particular track in Valencia, they have a problem occasionally with the wind running with the direction of the long straightaway, and as a racer, what happens, you're getting a push as you're going down the track, so you actually get to your brake point sooner, and with the wind giving that little push, if you don't actually start braking before your brake point, you will not be able to make that corner, and that's what actually happened to Zarco and Taka, and several other riders ran wide in that corner, including Jack Miller at the beginning of the race. Now Alex Marquez, who people weren't certain he was actually going to race, was actually doing not bad for a guy who's got black and blue butt cheeks, and was out there putting on a very good performance, of course at the back, sort of at the back of the pack, and he eventually would fall out of the top 15 and not score points, but he did actually finish the race, and you got to give the guy credit for that. Fabio Quartararo was pushing again, trying to get back up into the points, because you got to remember is that Joan Mir was 37 points ahead, so Fabio, who is second in the championship, needed to get the maximum number of points, or he was going to be not have a chance of beating Mir. A few laps later, Fabio came into one of the corners carrying a little too much speed, lost the front end and ran off the track and crashed, and that was basically his race, and he knew his championship was over. As it stands right now, like Jean won the championship, but Fabio is now fourth in the championship because he has lost so many points over the last few races. Now, Jean Mir himself was actually doing a very good job of keeping himself safe and clean, because the way to win a championship is you have to finish and collect the points. And when he was passing people, it was a very good, solid pass. It wasn't going to be a situation where the other rider and him might end up dicing and possibly colliding. So he was doing an excellent job of knowing he has to finish in a position to collect the points to win the championship. Now, Franco was staying about a second ahead of everyone else, but near the last about 10 laps, Jack Miller started closing on him. And Jack, I think, had lots of tire left and was slowly closing on Franco, and suddenly he found himself to be about 3/10 behind, and the Franco's pit warned him, and so Franco picked the pace up a bit, and Jack was able to maintain it. He lost a few tenths here and there, but on the last lap he was right behind Franco, and he ended up second from the last lap. On the main straightaway, he actually passed Franco down the straightaway using the Ducati's power, but of course that wind actually caused him to drift a little wide off the track, and he got back in after Franco passed him back, and then proceeded to try everything he could to get by Franco in that last lap. So it was an absolutely spectacular last lap. Hopefully MotoGP will upload that last lap to YouTube so everyone can watch it, because Franco was doing everything he could do to block Jack fairly and safely, and Jack was trying to do everything he could do to pass Franco fairly and safely, and it was like, 12 corners, absolutely spectacular racing, and in the end, Franco won the race. He's now won as many races this season as Fabio Quartararo, and he's currently second in the World Championships, even though Joan won. Paul Espargaro finished on the podium again, doing a really good job for KTM, showing how good of a rider he is and how much progress that KTM has done. In fact, 3 KTMs finished the race, all of them well in the points. So I think KTM is actually showing a lot of promise for next season. After the race, of course, Jean-Mir had his World Championship celebration where he got his T-shirt and his gold helmet. And it's unfortunate in that situation. There's no fans around, but he has his team, so they were able to celebrate. Now everyone's packing up to go to Portugal, to Portobello, for the final race of the season. And after that, that is going to be it. There's no testing at the end of the season that they traditionally have in MotoGP, because they're not actually changing engines for next year. Next season, they're going to be using the same engines. They'll be able to make other changes to the bikes, but they're having to use the same engines for 2 seasons. So that's it for this video. Hopefully we have another week where I might be able to get a little more riding in and do the last video on the bike, since I think you probably prefer it, and I definitely do too. So anyways, this Thursday, there's going to be the video on Ione and the band and all the various things he's done over his career that made him a very unusual MotoGP racer. DeathsStalker, signing off.